Here's a rare behind-the-scenes look of Star Wars on set in London in 1976.
I was just getting...
And George Lucas wasn't happy. Watch this next one.
Action! Didn't lock. It doesn't lock, does it?
George looks very frustrated. George Lucas was so stressed during the production of the first Star Wars movie. Everybody thought he was going to die.
I was having severe chest pains. They took me to the hospital because they thought I might be having a heart attack. They said, "Have you been under a lot of pressure?" I said, "Yeah." But of course, everybody else was panicked. What if I died? People don't even know what the movie is. It wasn't a heart attack. It turned out to be angina or something.
What did the Death Star smell like? Maybe it smelled of Chewbacca's hairspray. But no, it actually smelled of British fags.
What an incredible smell you've discovered!
Take a look here at Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher hanging out on the set of Star Wars. You can see Harrison Ford is casually smoking a cigarette. So next time you watch these scenes, imagine the smell of tobacco. George Lucas was not happy with the way Obi-Wan died. During the production of Star Wars, a dummy of Obi-Wan was set up, and the original idea was to have flames when Darth Vader's lightsaber slashed him, but the dummy kept catching fire. So in the end, an unhappy George had to settle with no flames. The only reason the Death Star had trenches is because it was the only way ILM could achieve the sense of speed that George Lucas wanted. And they had a very interesting way of having this idea.
We had ridden motorcycles down gullies out in the desert and noticed that when you were in the gullies, you were traveling by things, they seemed really fast.
George Lucas was very disappointed with a lot of the shots in Star Wars, but he mostly kept this feeling to himself.
I'm a perfectionist, and if it's not right, I get really upset. Inside. Sometimes outside, but mostly inside.
Okay.
Everything can't be the way you want it to be. You have to sort of do the best you can and move forward.
The surface of the Death Star seemed so vast and boundless, but it was made up of only 6 different square-shaped molds, all rotated and combined in different ways, so that nobody would notice an incredible amount of repetition. Tens of thousands of little reflective glass beads were applied to give the appearance of lit-up windows, but after a visit and inspection from Marsha Lucas, she said the scale was wrong, and each window had to be half the size, so they all had to be replaced. George Lucas was frustrated during the production of Star Wars because he wanted things to be exactly how he imagined it. But before CGI, this was a near impossible task.
He always said things like, if I could wave my magic wand, I would put electrodes in my head and have the movie made right there.
I thought, I'm sure we can figure out a better way to do this. Maybe I better figure out what it is.
Every spacecraft in Star Wars was created with what ILM called boilerplate technology. Every little box or piece of equipment added had to have tubing or wiring connecting it to something else, and everything had to look like it had a mechanical purpose. To do this, they would buy boxes of model kits of World War II planes, tanks and guns, and use recognizable scaled-down equipment and details from these kits, which meant they were limited by how many kits they could get their hands on as to how many of the same ships they could build, so they would buy up hundreds of boxes at a time. George Lucas wanted to make the famous Death Star scenes look fast and believable, but the guys at ILM worked out that to get the right speed of the X-Wings on such a huge Death Star, the camera would need to be travelling at 20 miles per hour. But this was before CGI as we know it existed, so to pull this off they had to put the camera on the back of a truck and drive past the Death Star model, which they set up in the parking lot. They had one chance to get it right because they had to time the explosions just as the truck was passing. Otherwise they would have messed up the whole shot.